Okay. All right. As you know, Dennis, the Black Workers Organizing Center is conducting, some living history, asking for these interviews from black people about working while black. So this is basically, we're seeking your experience as a black worker. Realizing that you currently do not work for, a corporation or a company, what do you consider the work that you perform, though? Because you certainly do socially useful things.
Well, at present, I'm not doing any work for pay. That is to say, I don't have a job where I'm earning a wage or a salary or something, but I do work with people, like at Liberated Lens Collective. And
why don't you take a minute and tell us what the Liberated Lens Collective is, so people get some sense.
Well, it's sort of I think a loosely organized group of mostly young people, but there's all kind of people in it who are socially conscious people who are committed to making videos and that are socially meaningful to people, that involves training people in the use of production and post-production of video. And well, it's in that vein, and it's a very cinematic-oriented group. Love films, show films, and share films with people. Use that medium as a means of both entertaining people, but also educating people when it's possible to.
Good. Now we have a main, project that we're working on. Would you just share that with us just for a minute?
You must be talking about Caesar Struggle.
That's correct.
Which has its roots going back to 2015. The idea that in a world, in a country where people who live in inner cities find it more and more difficult to find food to eat, that is healthy food in particular, to have access to food. There is in this country, and right now in the Bay Area as well, in East Bay and Oakland, people who are finding means to deal with this problem of access of food.
Through what?
The lack of access to food.
Through what process? How? How do they find it?
There are all kinds of means that people are trying to feed themselves, or to find a way to make food accessible to themselves, by connecting with, in particular, like black farmers in California, for example.
That make organic food, is it?
Yeah, or the old-fashioned way, what they call natural food. We call it. Some people call it organic. They call it natural food, growing food naturally.
That's without pesticides.
Yes, or chemicals and all that sort of stuff. There are people who they're organizing markets. That is to say, farmers markets in the city. They're organized.
You're talking about black people.
Yes, black folks.
Why don't you just, for 1 minute, tell us if a black person wanted to buy some natural or organic produce, where could they go? If they wanted to buy it from another black person, where could they go?
There are different options. There are, in Oakland, there is a season for farmers to come, black farmers to come to Oakland, from the rural area, come to the city and sell their produce and whatever they have. There's a farmer's market that happens, okay? That's a seasonal thing. There is, in Oakland, a cooperative grocery store. It's called Mandela Foods Cooperative. It's a good example, owned and run by mainly African Americans, to sell that kind of food. That comes directly from farmers, that's pesticide-free or organic, and people can buy it there. There's what's happening in Oakland are urban farms, community gardens. There are all kinds of people involved in producing healthy food that people can have access to stay healthy, to eat healthy.
When you were chasing the dollar bill, what was your best job And what was your worst job?
I've been around a long time, so I got to think about that. I would say the best job I had was actually working in a worker cooperative.
Oh, yeah? What was the name of it?
Book People, which came out of Berkeley and then moved to Oakland, California, um, the best pay I ever had was there. The best working conditions I ever had was
What
there.
year was that?
Well, we're talking about from 1986 to 2004. And that was a business that was around for over 30 years as a cooperative, and I remember distinctly when I became a member of the co-op. Finally went through the probation period after 6 months and became a member and got a key, because that's sort of a symbol of becoming a member and a worker owner of the business. You get a key to and have access to the business. I remember one member saying, "Welcome to the human race." I remember that. It's meaning you have some sort of control over your own labor as a
It's a
worker.
co-op, worker-run co-op.
Right. Yeah.
Man, I didn't know about that place. All right. Where was you located, actually?
It was originally in Berkeley for a number of years, and then moved to Oakland around 1991.
I'm talking about literally where?
Well, it was on Edgewater Drive in
That's
Oakland.
East Oakland, right?
Yeah,
Right.
but before that, it was on like Fifth Street
Oh, yeah.
in
yeah.
Berkeley,
Oh, yeah.
way down near the freeway.
Okay. Now, what was your worst job? You know I wasn't gonna forget.
This guy. Probably the worst job. God, I had to try to choose from a bunch of them. It must have been Jesus. I guess maybe in 1969 when I moved to California from Oakland. I mean, from Ohio to Oakland. I got a little job out there near the Coliseum, working for some guy. I don't know. It was just handling. I don't even remember exactly what it was. That was 1969, so it was a long time ago. So, but I remember that was a really pathetic job that I had, and the guy was particularly ruthless. Seemed to me in terms of. I was like one of maybe just a couple of handful of people who worked for him. Was working with scrap metal and stuff like that. And
You needed a job.
yeah, that was just for, and the guy was just, I just felt like a tool rather than a person working for the guy. So, but that was, yeah, and so.
Give me a little story about what made you feel like a tool in that circumstance.
Well, it was a situation where I was just helping this guy. It was another black guy who was a businessman who was looking for parts and stuff. I was helping him out, and the guy got very angry that I was just helping this guy out as opposed to just, because it was a place where people just came to get stuff, and you're supposed to help them out, in general. But since I was helping this guy, he was very mad about that for some reason, and I remember that. This is a long time ago, so I don't remember all the circumstances, but I just remember that it was sort of a humiliating situation I was in,
Okay.
because I was helping this
That's
one
weird.
guy out.
Well, today, before I get to that, I know that you didn't just develop an interest in what we call food justice. So, for instance, I know that you once explained to me that you helped to continue the breakfast program that was started by the Black Panthers in the city of Oakland. Is that right? Tell us a little bit about that, please.
Well, yeah, that's the Black Panther Party had started. That's where the breakfast program began in Oakland,
At that church? What was the
actually
name of
at
it?
St. Augustine Church, 27th and West. That's where they started the program. And that must have been like, I don't forget what year it was, in the late 60s, but in 1970 it was a group of students, including myself, from Laney College, black students, who took it over. It was about I guess 6 or 7 of us, plus one sociology teacher from Laney also participated with us. And
So you were going to Laney at that time?
Laney College, when I started in '69. That's when I came out here, in the fall of '69, and I got involved because this was when Fred Hampton and Mark Clark were murdered by the police in Chicago, and that was an issue.
Now, was that where you were originally from?
No, I'm from Ohio, Youngstown, Ohio. But it was that event that they were trying to get rid of a few people. They really radicalized a lot of other people as a result of that, who not being intimidated by events are angered by events.
Let me just
So,
be clear about
that's
this.
where I
So what
got-
you're saying is the 1%, the people that initiated the counterintelligence program,
Yeah,
that
COINTELPRO.
led to
COINTELPRO.
right COINTELPRO is the acronym, right?
Right.
That led to the murder of Fred Hampton, one of the more talented Black Panther leaders. In effect, that boomeranged on them,
Yeah.
and it led to a heightened commitment on the part of the black community.
Because the parties began to create, public, they organized protests against that, or community education around that issue, and that educated a lot of us, including students, that got a lot of us interested in doing something. And one of the things that happened that out of that was in early 1970 was some of us students at Laney College becoming involved in the Breakfast for School Children program. The party just turned it over to us, and we ran it. And you know that you've probably seen some photographs of that time in '77. We did it in 1970 and 1971. So it was a means of connecting radicalized students, black students at Laney College, to the movement to commit ourselves to working with the community right next to the Brothers Saleh Muhammad Speaks. And that was one of the things. We participated in the party political education program, education classes on Sundays that they did every Sunday in West Oakland. And whenever there were demonstrations, our forces would be out there. The students would be out there in support of party activities. So I mean, we just got involved with what was happening in Oakland with the Black Panther Party in 1970 and '71.
Okay, now you moved on,
You know,
being a person that's thoughtful, I think, in my opinion. And you continued to be active in politics. What was the next group that you interacted with?
I would say at that time was what was happening after the split in the Black Panther Party, which sort of demoralized a lot of folks and sent folks into different things in different directions. Some of us, including some of the same students from Laney, that I was involved with, got involved with I'm blanking on the African Liberation Support Committee, and we were involved with that for a couple of years.
There were a lot of people involved in that. There was the All-African People Revolutionary Party, the Stokely Carmichael people.
Yeah.
That was, Uhu House was involved in it at that time?
There were communist workers in the Bay Area. The Communist Workers Party, the Black Trotskyites from the Socialist Workers Party. It was a lot of folks.
Yeah, but it's kind of. I wish I could strangle that son of a. Look, the thing is, this is something that we lost because I can never forget. I was not a part of that milieu. But I came here around 75 to the Bay Area. And I remember they were still having them when I got here. And I remember they were certainly having them when I was in New York. And I would always, without question, that's somewhere I would go. It generated discussions on the liberation movements in Africa.
particularly Southern
It
Africa.
generated a higher understanding and commitment of support to the struggle for liberation in Africa, and now it's gone. What the hell happened?
Well, it was pretty clear from my experience working with folks that there were all kind of divisions within the different tendencies there. I mean, there were divisions certainly between what we call the Marxist groups and the nationalist groups, the folks who were there. But there were also, splits within those groups too. There was different between the Marxists, between the Maoists and the Trotskyites. So, and that all of that had an impact on how, at least in the Bay Area, I can speak to, is what I saw the differences. They were very important elements to people's political life in terms of, I mean, their specific ideologies, and wanting to express those ideologies in these organizations, and not really say putting aside the differences in order to get done the job that that need to get done. A lot of those ideological differences were a very important part of what hindered the organization from being able to consolidate and move forward, in my view.
Mm-hmm. Now, you went on to be involved with Grace Boggs and them, didn't you?
Yeah.
What attracted you to them, to James and Grace Boggs, who were based, I believe, in Detroit?
Mm-hmm.
And what was the name of that organization?
Well, actually there was initially a group in Detroit and Philadelphia, actually, and the group was called the Advocators in Detroit. In different cities, they were called different things, but and the group was organized around a manifesto called the Manifesto for a Black Revolutionary Party. Okay, which is not to be confused with the Black Manifesto by James Forman.
Right.
Sometimes that had been, James Boggs wrote the Manifesto for a Black Revolutionary Party, and James Forman wrote the Black Manifesto. Sometimes people would get them confused, but and it was the same year, 1969, when that happened. James Boggs and others went on to build an organization with an all-black political organization around the Manifesto for the Black Revolutionary Party, and in late '60s, early '70s. Later, it would evolve and involve more other folks besides just black folks. But the original organization was an all-black organization, so it was a black revolutionary organization, which later would recruit white members and other members, Asian members. And, but it was first, but they felt they had to build an organization around black leadership, and ideas. That the politics and ideas and vision, original vision, would be built around the black struggle, or coming out of the black struggle.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
So while all that's going on, while I realize your longest span was at that co-op job that you described earlier, how did you feel you were treated differently as a black person when you were working? Did you ever feel that you were being treated differently?
I can't say that was true at the co-op, but I guess in my case it's always been well, for me, it's more difficult to just point out specifics and say, well, that's because I'm black or something like that. Um, in terms of the work situation, especially after having graduated, say from college, I can't say that in terms of the jobs I've had. I could talk about seeking work that I think I can't things I can't prove. I can't prove that I didn't get accepted because I was black, but I don't get a sense, especially when I'm applying for some position where the people who are potential hirees are white. They're not going to tell you, well, I'm not going to hire you because you're black. So you don't know, but you only suspect,
Well, tell me this here, though. I'm going to give you the other side of that contradiction. What is the best part of being a black worker from your perspective, from your experience?
Aside from having a job, when other people aren't, I don't know. The best part of being a black worker. Oh, Jesus.
Well, the skin I'm in. Come on now.
God, that's something I have to really think about. It's not something I ever thought about before, and therefore I can't. It's difficult to reflect on. Well, there's sometimes, I've had a lot of different jobs a lot of different jobs, going all the way back to the '60s when I was a teenager. Well, the best jobs are when you're actually doing something that serves people from your community, and it actually benefit them in terms of their education or actually, I'm thinking of something specific when they benefited from what you did. People benefited in terms of getting a job or being educated. So doing something that's of service to somebody else, particularly African Americans, that's always a good thing. When you can do something that's of service, as opposed to just just doing something just to make somebody else some money.
Yeah, clearly.
And what you're doing doesn't seem meaningful at all. You're just doing it because it's a paycheck. But when you're doing something that's of service to somebody else, particularly members from your community that really need it, then that would be good.
Okay. Just for our listeners, would you please state your name?
Oh, Dennis Terry.
Thank you so much, Dennis.
Okay.
We appreciate it.
Hey, my pleasure.